half of Americans report feeling lonely daily. And so when you hear those statistics, it's just, I feel like heartbreaking and also a little sad that we may be showing up places, but we're still not connected.
Hey, change makers and visionaries. This is Reimagining Community, where we dive deep into the stories of leaders who are reshaping the world, one community at a time. I'm your host, Garland Fuller, and every episode is a radical act of connection. We're not just talking about change, we're breaking down how real people are creating it right here, right now. This podcast is more than conversations. It's a bridge where we are sharing stories that offer insight and inspiration. Whether you're an entrepreneur, consultant, volunteer, artist, or an organizational leader, this is your space to listen and learn. This is your call to create impact in the communities you hold dear and that hold you up. Let's reimagine what's possible together.
Welcome to Reimagining Community. This is the Third Space Academy solo series where we reimagine the places between home and work, the ones that hold our story, spark our ideas, and remind us we belong. I'm Garland Fuller, and each episode I'll explore how people, place, and program can turn any gathering into a space worth coming back to. Today's topic is building community, especially in a post-COVID world. I want to specifically talk about what it has been like post-COVID because I feel like so much has happened. And I've got some interesting data points that I think are worth mentioning. Half of Americans report feeling lonely daily. Not sometimes, not every holiday, but daily. This is according to the U.S. Surgeon General. Burnout affects 63% of U.S. employees. When you look at loneliness as an epidemic, it sounds like with all the connectivity tools that we have, email, social, FaceTime, telephone, Slack, all these things that are available to us, yet people are still feeling lonely every day. I think that is something worth considering take a moment to hear that, feel that, think about that, because I don't think we sometimes think about it in that way. True belonging doesn't happen by accident. It's actually something you build. I think we figure we just show up to places and things just come together and then everything's fine. And what I have come to realize in my 25 years of working in people within corporations, my years of working within a professional trade organization on a board, in addition to participating in a whole host of employee resource groups, working in side organizations that create inclusion centers based on identity. What I've come to realize is nothing happens if you don't actually intentionally build it. You facilitate it unless you actually make an effort to create space that is impactful, that's connective, that has conversation built into it. A big part of what I have determined is that third spaces are not home, they're not work, they're another space where you actually have an opportunity to create a sense of belonging. And so when you hear those statistics, it's just, I feel like heartbreaking and also a little sad that we may be showing up places, but we're still not connected. So the people, place, program framework is huge because I feel like if we are not getting intentional in building those spaces, they just don't happen. So the people side of things for me is knowing your audience and looking at that through an intersectional lens. It's not just men, women, first generation, LGBTQIA plus community. It's all of the lenses that weave through all of those different kinds of groups. And so if we're looking at, race, gender identity, age, ability, sexual orientation, socioeconomic class, and then hidden ones like language, faith practices, dietary needs. When you add all of this together, it's a lot of different intersecting areas that I just think that we often don't think about if we are designing with inclusion in mind. It may be something that you have to say you're having a youth event and you are realizing that if it's a youth event, you assume that everyone's going to have a smartphone. You assume that everyone's going to have technology. And that might not be the case. That may not necessarily be the case because sometimes from a socioeconomic perspective, everyone doesn't have a phone. And so if we are looking at this from a few different angles, it's essentially looking at how can we adapt any tech-specific engagement to all of the youth that may or may not have access to a phone or to technology. So that's just a small example. And then we have place. So place for me is both a sensory experience. Sensory design is a form of emotional communication. I don't know that people think about it like that, but that's a huge thing for me is how does it feel? And I know sometimes we don't think about how does it feel. We just assume that people just are going to be there and that's all you need. So elements to consider is sound and lighting and layout and accessibility. Is this something that people can get in and out of easily? Here's an example is if you have harsh fluorescent lighting in your space, perhaps you may want to look at how you can bring more natural daylight, whether that's daylight bulbs or figuring out how you can get more window light in there. And so what we found is daylight actually helps people to feel less anxious. Plants also do this. If you have plant life in your space, plant also add another element of calm. It's an opportunity, again, sensory design as emotional communication is huge. And then last is programming. So programming for me is when you take the people and the place and then you get really intentional with aligning what your needs are, whether it's forming community agreements, whether it's having icebreakers, whether it is, doing something that is at a particular time of day so that everybody can be there. Avoiding a one-size-all-fits programming, I think, is huge in designing for full participation if you want everyone to be there. So an example is, say you have a poetry slam event and you want to have an open mic, but you may not realize that some people may still be getting inspired and writing. Some people may want to have something to eat while they're there. And so in your programming, you want to incorporate how food may be a part of it, how you may have different spaces for reflection and writing and certain other spaces for people to be able to get on stage. So it's huge when you look at how programming can impact so much of what you do. Okay, so I honestly believe that when we look at third spaces, if we can think about them as places that heal, inspire, and transform what we choose to design intentionally, it can totally change what is out there as it relates to the loneliness. So I want to challenge you to think of your favorite third place. What people, place, or program element makes it powerful. Share this episode with someone who is either a third space leader or someone who's having to think about programming, and ask how could they deepen inclusion, safety, and inclusivity for their target group. If you would like me, Garland Fuller, to do more like this, please let me know in the show notes, in the comments. I speak often at conferences, lead workshops, and guide teams through this people place program framework. If you would like to book me, please go to my website, garlandfuller.com, and let's reimagine what your third space can look like together, because the future needs way more builders and space holders like you. And I am excited to be able to bring this information to you in the form of a podcast.
If this conversation moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because every week we're bringing you more stories of real transformation. Drop a comment, share your thoughts, and tag the folks in your circle who need to hear this. Want to go deeper? Check out the Community Impact Collective. Sign up for my newsletter. The link is in the description. Now is the time. Are you in?